when I started when I first went on my own after leaving agency life, I was in PR agencies most of my career for about 20 some odd years, boutique agencies and then large international agencies. Um, I would talk to clients and say, where does your brand stand? So I started my company called Brand Stand Communications because that was always the first question I would ask a client. Where does your brand stand? What does it mean? And it would be a two-part question. It's like, what do you see your brand meaning? But what does the audience see your brand meaning? And we would look into that and research that. And that still is relevant today as it was back in 2013 when I started, because certain times a brand will say, well, this is what we do, and this is what we mean, and this is what we represent. But the audience would be like, oh, I think you do something else. And there's a disconnect. So to spend the time and money to make that connection is so important so that you as corporation truly connect with your customer and understand what they're expecting from you and what you're delivering to you. And today, it's about the narrative. So the brand narrative it's a word. It's not, I'll sound like somebody. It's a word that's being used more and more in communication strategy now. I think we're finding narrative, which is also great because I've always considered myself as a public relations person, and many of us we're storytellers, right? That's what we do. We tell stories. So I always want to tell the story of the brands that I'm working with because you can be a dictionary and say this is the definition of my brand. And that's boring because who wants to read a dictionary? Nobody wants to read a dictionary, but you want to read the book about the story. So, and that's what will capture your client and or your client, your customer, and bring more people to you if they feel they can relate to your story and then see how it relates to them. So, narrative intelligence, really making sure that that what people are seeing matches what you want to tell. That's really what's so important with narrative intelligence. Make sure that what people out there on the web, in real life, in stores, at conferences, what they see matches what you want to tell and what you want to share. And and today, the way people are interpreting and the way people are getting their information has, it certainly changes like with technology as it has changed over the eons, right? From tapping into stone tablets to, well, first audio. And I love that. If you think about it, our history is oral storytelling. That's how all history began, just passing on from generation to generation until it was then written down and then, as I said, from stone tablets to the Gutenberg printing press, which changed history again, the printing press to WordPress and Microsoft Word and Mac, which would change to the internet, how it changed the storytelling. So today, story is actually a really key word because so many people get their information online, and today they're getting it online through what you work with your clients, AI. And AI just doesn't isn't just a dictionary, right? It just doesn't say, what is this brand? Oh, this brand is boom. AI interprets the narrative. It interprets the narrative, and it will change, AI will change that narrative based on the format of your questions, the format of your interaction with AI, right? The way you ask and the way you respond and the way you want your AI, the way you teach your AI agent, if you're working with agents, the way you teach it how to respond, that will change how it interprets the answer it wants to give to you. So knowing that puts a lot of pressure on brands because it's not just laid out. Here is my brand. Here is what we do. Because you lay that out, but then AI says, okay, this is what I think this brand does for you who are asking the question. And if you and I both ask the same question, you and I to an AI bot, you and I may get different answers.
Yeah,
So it's really up to corporate and especially with large companies. With large companies, they can't just you see the commercials. Oh, we've got this information and this information, but corporate has to understand how AI is interpreting every message that goes out there. And then also, I think what's very important is a lot of people and companies from large multinationals to small shops and small entrepreneurs, the messaging isn't just about outside, it's what's inside, the internal communications. How you're sharing your brand story internally to all of your employees, because they're the ones that share that out as well. Be it if it's their job in marketing or sales, or if they're in shipping, or if they're in admin, they all want, if they're all in a room and they're meeting strangers, they all need to be sharing that same narrative so that
I
there's,
agree.
so that's always what's out there. So I think
Agree.
I think that's, it's not just last thing I want to say is it used to, like when search engines first came about, gosh, it hasn't been that long ago, but when search engines
No,
first started coming out in, I guess, the early 1990s or so, okay, it is 30 years ago. That was a long time ago. It just doesn't feel, it doesn't feel that long ago. But when search engines came out, it was you ask a question, you get an answer. You're being discovered. You need to be found. You want to be on that first page of Google, right? If you're not, and that's what you and I, that was our job to make
yes.
sure, SEO was
They
the,
appear. They appear in the first page.
you better be on that first page. Because if not, no one's going to, maybe someone's going to say, but if you're on the fourth page, forget it. You might as well not exist. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter now. AI, it's not about being just, it's being interpreted. It's 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 how AI interprets what you're doing. And that's the human interaction there.
There is more conversational today with AI, and AI reads what your message is about, your narrative is about, and understand that you are the best answer to the question that someone is doing in those platforms. So
Right,
that's
exactly.
why now optimizing for every platform is so important.
Right. And AI
Excellent.
is learning. AI is smart, but AI will also be the first to tell you, I don't know everything. Make sure you check this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think so many new industries are coming in new careers are coming, just like when search engines first came out as well,
Yeah.
how to optimize, right? Optimize, that was the word. But you need to, I don't think we can optimize AI, but as long as we can generate the content with a narrative discipline, right? It's not just about spanking content out. What used to get you. Like
Yeah.
when I would do some, and when I still do some crisis communications, right?
Mhm.
If there was a negative story about a client, the way to get rid of that negative story, you can never get it taken off, but you want to pump out content, right? And that's what crisis communications firms will do. They'll just pump out thousands of pieces of content, content, content. So eventually that story will move off the first page of Google, right? But now it's so much more of that. It's not just pumping out the content, it's getting out the right content that keeps the narrative in the right direction, in the direction that you want it to be.
Thank you, David. That was great.